by Red FM. And the poets who will perform for you this afternoon are Lemn Sissay, Forrest Gander, Manal Younus, and Simon Armitage. They were going to be introduced by Damien Barr. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us, but Ruth Patel has very kindly agreed to step in. Ruth Patel will introduce the other poets. She is an award-winning British poet, scholar, and conservationist. She is Professor of Poetry at King's College in London, a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature, and she is the author of Tigers in Red Weather and Learning to Make an Oud in Nazareth. She's also the author of the bestselling Darwin, A Life in Poems, a verse biography of her great-great-grandfather, Charles Darwin. Her new book is Beethoven Variations, a poetic journey into the life of Beethoven. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Ruth Patel.
Good afternoon. It's lovely to see so many people here for poetry, and I'm incredibly honored and excited to introduce 4 amazing creators. And I just want to tell you a little about them before we start. Lemn Sissay is a poet and playwright. He's going to read from the selected poems, his Gold from the Stone. He's an artist, performer, and broadcaster. He has been setting the world on fire, but particularly Great Britain, or fairly Great Britain, where he lives, for the last sort of 20 years. And you're going to have a real treat. He's going to start off. Then we're going to hear from Forrest Gander, who's an American poet. He's a writer and translator. And his new book, Be With, won the Pulitzer Prize last year. I've been trying to buy this book for 2 years. I was in New York when it came out, and the New York bookstores it sold out. I just tried to buy it here, and it's already sold out. So try and buy it in some other way. It's wonderful that he's here, and I'm very excited to hear him. Minal Yunus is from Eritrea, which is in Africa, as you probably know. But more recently, she's, for the last 20 years, she's been based in South Australia. So that's a place which is all in all our hearts at the moment. And she's a storyteller. And she believes that language and stories are the very fabric of our existence, which I think everybody at this festival would agree with. And finally, we're going to hear from Simon Armitage, my dear colleague and wonderful poet. He was Professor of Poetry at Oxford. He's now the poet of the UK Poet Laureate, where he is encouraging people to take on, to write, to think about, with all our hearts on fire, about the environment. And he's going to be reading from, well, he says he's going to read poems. So I was also asked to read a poem myself. I don't really want to, because this is their gig. And this is my new book. And I'm going to read the last poem in it. It's about one of the supreme creators of all time, Ludwig van Beethoven. As you know, he went deaf very young, before he was 30. And he asked that an autopsy would be done to find out when he died why he had gone deaf. But this is really about a book about creativity and surmounting suffering and going on creating. This poem is called Musica Humana. The auditory canal covered in glutinous scales shine through the autopsy. The auditory arteries, thick and cartilaginous as if stretched over a raven's quill, and the auditory nerve withered to a pure white strand. But reading the last page in the book of his life on earth, how he joked to the doctor who lanced his belly, gallons of fluid rushing out across the floor, you remind me of Moses striking the rock with his staff. How he laughed when he could, how he read and reread with great joy a final gift, a 40-volume set of all the works of Handel, and how he died lifting his fist as if it held a bird he would release into the storm pelting Vienna with snow, like the reckless feathers driving all our lives to seek the fullest experience of the air. I listen to Cello Sonata Opus 69 and hear the unquenchable spirit that powers every note he writes and lives on dancing, dancing in you, me, everyone. So I just want to thank you. Thank you so much. But I want you to celebrate all these creators who are going to come on now, whose notes live on dancing in you and me and everyone. And first up, we have Lemn Sissay.
This is a love poem entitled Invisible Kisses. If there was ever one whom when you were sleeping, who would wipe your tears when in dreams you were weeping, who would offer you time when others demand, and whose love lay more infinite than grains of sand. If there was ever one to whom you could cry, who would gather each tear and blow it dry, who would offer help on the mountains of time, and who would stop to let each sunset soothe your shades of mind. If there was ever one to whom, when you run, who will push back the clouds so that you're bathed in sun, who would open arms if you would fall and show you everything if you lost it all. If there was ever one whom, when you achieve, was there before the dream, and even then believed, who would clear the air when it's full of loss, who would count love before cost. If there was ever one whom when you are cold, who will summon warm air for your heart to hold, who would make peace in pouring pain and make laughter fall in falling rain. If there was ever one who can offer you this and more, who in keyless rooms can see open doors, who in open doors can see open fields, and in open fields see harvests yield, then see only my face in the reflection of these tides, through the clear water, beyond the riverside. All I can send is love, and all that this is, a poem and a necklace of invisible kisses. Thank you. This poem is called Morning Breaks, and it's about morning breaking, I guess. Let me find it. Oh, thank you. They always said I was over the edge, and now I really am. I'm over the edge. But as I dropped, in a gasp of air, I grasped a branch that I hoped had its roots in the rock or rock-solid roots. But there's a storm coming. But there's a storm coming. But there's a breeze blowing Thickening ink spills and swills on a bleating paper sky. A crowd of rain on the horizon staggers nearer. I sway so, I know so, I slip a little more. I sway so, I know so, I grip a little more. These tender fingers in a clenched fist. I must have slit my back. It hurts like a howl. It stings like a scowl. It weeps and stings again. And the skin splits and spits from my spine sides. And the pain develops muscles that create mouths that simulate sounds of whole cities screaming. There's a storm coming, a coming storm. Dust spits from the cliff top into my river eyes, forcing tears over the banks to flood me. I will not drown in them. I will not drown. I am hanging on. I am hanging on. I am hanging on. In the zip of a thick ribbon of wind, a god or a devil appears floating in front of me, and he tells me in the hunch of a New York accent, "Let go. Let go." Death is the beginning of the end of 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 the beginning of the end. And he continues for 41 days and 41 nights of the end of the beginning of the end of the beginning of the end. And in a crack of lightning, the devil or the god vanished. There's nothing more for me to concentrate on but a storm, the sky, my breaching back, and the cliff and the edge and the uprooting branch, and my knuckles so sore, cracked and numb, they favour a knot of bleeding wood. If I look down, and I do look down, I can see that blood has poured from my back, seeped along the smoothness of my backside, slid under me, coiled its way seductively around my thighs, my knees, my ebonized legs. It pours in abundance these from my feet and skydives. I watch these red tears fall forever and transform into explicit flowers as they reach the floor. I will not become one. I am hanging on. I am hanging on. I am hanging on. Whispers from above me, whispers gather. The cliff ledge lined with edgy people of all colours. Some humming, "Amazing Grace." Others simply staring. Some I saw pointing at my back and wincing. A bearded man with his hand on a Bible or a red book or a white book or a leather book or a revolutionary book or a dark green book shouted down to me in sermonic tones deeper than the sea, "Let go. In the name of let go." A nervous follower peeps over the edge and offers the advice that there's someone down there. They'll catch you. And before I get chance to answer them, they erupt into a sky-shattering, "Someone's crying, Lord, let go. Someone's crying, Lord." The harmony of their collected voices woke the spirit of the sky, and they threw crosses at me. It's raining crosses. I look down past my feet. A devil or a god, a man the size of a pea, is mouthing the words back to me, "Let go!" Nighttime was approaching. Breathless I whispered, "I will not fall, never have, never will not fall." And as quick as they came is as quick as they were gone. But I am hanging on. I am hanging on. I am hanging on. And a darkness cloaked the horror of nighttime, of gangrenous spirits that fed upon open wounds. As lightning struck, I saw glimpses of their faces, demons whose countenance had slipped, whose fingers had stretched, nails had curled, whose breath stank so viciously that I spewed into the sea my mantra, "I am hanging on, I am hanging on, I am hanging on," throughout darkness and fear until sunrise and the stillness of morning breaking. I was a silhouette, hanging from a branch against the chalky cliff, only the sound of my trickling blood and my breaking back and the moaning sky for comfort. My shadow stretched across the cliff like a script title on handmade paper. The sulking storm retreated into the horizon to recollect, the sea trying to throw off its reflection, and I listened more to the tearing of my back flesh as I hanged, the flapping wet skin of my blooded back as it hanged, and tears painted salt veins along my ebonized skin. And as that stark sunlight skidded across a bloodied sky, I swear I sensed the presence of two symmetrical shadows descending. They stretched seemingly, even pushed back the clouds seemingly, and I felt them push warm air into my face. I saw them in the corner of each eye, magnificent wings, and I felt new muscles in my back and my chest expand with air, further and further, and new air and a new spirit, and there, with not a soul around me, I unpeeled my tender fingers from that dew-drenched branch. I let the sun pour into my eyes, and finally, after years, I let go. Why? Because I was growing wings all the time, and I can fly. Thanks. Thank you. I'll tell you one thing. Some of you may have been thinking, well, this is a bit long. Some of you may be thinking, I'll have a little sleep. Sometimes it's worth staying with something, right? It's worth staying with it right to the end, even if you don't first understand it. And if you do, that is how you get the most out of life and the most out of poetry. I'll read this poem. It's a very short one. It's about relationships. It's called Sarcasm. It's about an argument at the end of a relationship. And it fits perfectly for time. Although I should leave now, really. However, 36 seconds. Sarcasm, yeah. Sarcasm. Sarcasm, she said, is the lowest form of wit. I said, it's not, is it? That's the end of that poem. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
You have been listening to Lemn Sissay. The next performer is going to be Forrest Gander. Please, let's hear it for Forrest Gander.
Hello, I'm Forrest Gander. What we all learned as kids about lichen, that it's an indicator species for pollution. Litmus, in fact, is derived from lichen. And that it's the synergistic collaboration of a fungus and an algae is true, but simplified. For one thing, the original organisms are changed utterly into compact. They can't return to what they were. For another, according to Anne Pringle, one of the leading mycologists, it may be that lichen do not, given sufficient nutrients, age. Anne says our sense of the inevitability of death may be determined by the fact that we're mammals, and we look at mammals, but perhaps some forms of life are relatively immortal. The thought of two things that come together and alter each other collaboratively, two things that become one thing that does not age, rouses me toward considering lichen a kind of model and metaphor for the intricacies of intimacy. Unto ourselves. To see what's there and not already patterned by familiarity. for an unpredicted whole is there, casting a pair of shadows, manipulating its material, advancing, assembling enough kinship that we call it life, our life, what is already many lives, the dimensions of its magnitude veiled to us as we live it. Across the cytoplasm of adjacent cells goes a signal that turns you toward me, turns me into you. We are coupled in quiet tumult, convergent arguments, an alien rhythm becoming familiar, a rhythm of I am here, never to be peeled away. We are become one thing, listening for what's there and not. Through the storm, neem trees on the hill stamp wildly in their roots. We have passed through the spring, but what thing has passed through us? Now your laughter transparentizes me, and whose sense of the self doesn't swerve? Your unconditional foreignness grows conditional, stops being foreign at all. With your nearness, my lens on the world shifts. A peristaltic contraction courses through us as a single wave. No longer can we keep our distance, our lips brush, or the tips of ourselves. But what language are you whispering to me? Your teeth stained by Nilgiri tea, above the trills and whistles in the high limbs, above the screech of a bulldozer blade shoving rubble up the wounded street, above the silence of an eyeless tick climbing a grass stem. I understand nothing but the lust your voice incites, the declamatory tenderness. How? And who can say what force has queued up this hour for our small voices to merge into a carnality that did not exist before now? Come to this unforeseen conjunction. We slip into one another. We take hold in a pulse of heat, in a yes and no. For already we can see we are no longer what we were. As I find you within me, not fused, not bonded, but lodged. And for you, is it the same? The intensity of such investment, each of us excited by the volatility of the other, which propels us in a rush as something, perhaps our lips brush or the tips of ourselves, stripping away what? What was before? Was there even anything before? The reconfiguration is instantaneous experience. It is being itself. But whose being now? Was I endowed with some special pliability so that becoming part of you, I didn't pass through my own nihilation? And what does the death of who you were mean to me, except that now you are present constantly? Because excess is what it took for us to transform, to effulge. You cast your life beyond itself. Can't you sense me with your ecstatic openness, like rain mingling with red earth? Without you, I survived, and with you, I live again in a radical augmentation of identity, because we have effaced our outer limits, because we summoned each other. In you, I cast my life beyond itself. Immigrant C. Aroused by her inaccessibility, he aches for more of her life to live inside him, watching the breakers, standing so close he can feel heat coming off her wet scalp. What is his relation to this person before him, so familiar and foreign? The way he searches out her face, he searches out himself. Gusts thrash crests of swell. Spring grasses twirl circles in the sand where they stand without speaking. She wants him to know it's all charged. Even grass, positive, pollen, negative. So when grass waves, it sweeps the air for pollen. He feels electricity all around, as though the wild drama of the coming storm were already aware of them, foreigners on this shore. Little sapphire blue flowers speckle the dunes. He wonders if he has let himself flatten out into a depthless sheet like escalator stairs, whether in the end he'll disappear underground without the smallest lurch of resistance. But when her lavish face turns toward him, beaming, the corners of her eyes wind wet, he yields to that excess. He reappears to himself. This is called Wasteland for Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa is the town next to the town that I live in California, and it was decimated by wildfires 2 years ago. Green spring grass on the hills had cured by June, and by July, gone woolly and brown, it crackled underfoot, desiccated, while within the clamor of live oaks, an infestation of tiny larvae clung to the underleaves, feeding between veins. Their frass, that fine dandruff of excrement and boring dust, tinkled as it dropped onto dead leaves below the limbs. You could hear it 20 feet away, tinkling. Across the valley on Sugarloaf Ridge, the full moon showed up like a girl doing cartwheels. No one goes on living the life that isn't there. Below, a vast column of smoke, heat, flame, and wind, I rose, swaying and tottering on my erratic vortex, extemporizing my own extreme weather, sucking up acres of scorched topsoil and spinning it outward in a burning sleet of filth and embers that catapulted me forward with my mouth open in every direction at once. So I came for you, churning, turning the present into purgatory, because I need to turn everything to tragedy before I can see it, because it must be leavened with remorse for the feeling to rise. And then I'm going to finish with this poem from a sequence in Be With called for Ruth, and it's for the chances are that many of you in the audience know a loved one, have a loved one who has dementia or Alzheimer's disease. So this is for you. How she fights the sleeping pill to stay up with me as I drive back from the beach, to keep talking, to speak and be spoken to, the assurance of voices, even her own now druggy, iterative slur, which is like low birdsong, a blind inquiry in twilight. Is someone there? And a claim she is alive, here in the seat beside me, her seatbelt around her as she overcomes the pill, the devious obstacle course, the drowsiness I administered in order to drive her 4 hours home this evening, to concentrate on driving, to save my pollen-swollen and mucus-inflamed throat from the overtime shift of talk, to stay the repetitive questions, her struggle among scraps and familiar names torn from faces and feelings, the cipher names of her husband and her grandchildren, a language of blanks. I drive with my left hand on the wheel, the other massaging the loose skin of her hands, feeling for the tightened cord in her palms, bands of fascia that curl her fingers forward. And when I think she's fallen asleep, her face up-tilted and drawn as we cross Indian River Inlet, where she'd often, with my father, fished for flounder from the Grady White, whose single outboard pumped and primed, they'd startled into coughs of blue smoke in the canal back in Bethany hours earlier, and piloted through the gauntlet of buoys that drew it through Assawoman Bay, past Harpoon Hannah's, and into the yawning Atlantic. When I start to pull my hand away, she tightens her grip, not opening her eyes, maybe in reflex, holding on to her will to be awake with me. Her son, whom she knows, whom she thanks now in her almost sleep, her narcotic fatigue, in the spreading murk of the pill I coaxed her to swallow so that the trip might be easier while she rides beside me, holding on. Thank you.
Big thank you to Forrest Gander. Our next poet is Minal Yunus. Welcome, Manal.
So my poetry is a bit more of a conversation. So who here has been to poetry slams or poetry events in the past? Yeah, a lot of you. So what's something that you notice the audience always does? Yes. So at any point while I'm up here, if you feel anything, if you're vibing with it, it could be a run of lines, it could be a particular message, you can click to let me know, all right? And I want to make sure I'm hearing you, because in a conversation, it's no fun if you're the only one talking. So this is the way that I want to get your response. So this poem that I'm going to share is called Ashy Knees. And I've chosen to share this one because even on my way here to the venue today, I noticed the billboards of Fair and Lovely, and I noticed that a lot of the issues that exist here around representation and skin color are very similar to the ones that exist where I'm from. So as a black woman, this poem is for all of us, for all people of color, and I hope it speaks to you. Don't kneel or crawl, or your knees will go black. She was taught to hate her ashy knees. See, they were black and black was bad, but she was black and don't call yourself black. You're brown, she'd hear. As though that should make her feel better, but still, not even the black boys would look at her, so she wanted her lips to be as thin as other girls, hips as slim as other girls, but with fingertips that don't match her knuckles. She was the scapegoat for lies, the victim of exclusion. Should she be here or there, until she came to the conclusion that maybe she doesn't belong anywhere. Introduced as Sarah's little black friend, and what's your name again, and can I just call you Mia then? Damn, I've really lost my place. Hold on. I thought I knew this one off by heart. This is what happens when you try to show off. Skin tone meant we got teased in the schoolyard. Pretended to be tough, but they would call our bluff, and when pushed, she landed on those knees, making them darker, ashier, her angrier in the afro hair houses. Scalp burning with hydrochloride, I'd wander down aisles while trying to find something to scrub off parts of this child. These ashy knees needed creams, these nappy locks should be stopped. This rainbow of browns looked down on, and why? Was I praised for having such white palms? These arms changed by sunlight, so stay out of the sun, she'd hear. You're getting too dark. Such simple words to spark a disdain for this blackness, or you'll look like a slave, as though slavery was some bad choice our ancestors made. But she said, you're not even black, just tanned. You've got skin that we'd kill for. Well, tell that to those who got killed for it. Police stopped billed for it. Skin peeled from toxins, never healed from it. Parents stolen from grandparents. Land grabs, displacement, derogated and shamed. Second-class citizens on our own lands that you've claimed. And if only it was as simple as color or varying body types. But for generations, these would determine our fates. And they still do in so many places, still threatened by our faces. So we get pulled apart and they take what they feel like taking. Black skin, black curves, black language, culture, land, but all these parts make a whole soul that knows no notion of giving in. We will hold ourselves together. This team dark, team light skin means we divide us, but on what basis when even the palest can come from the blackest dust? Just by uniting, just by existing. We not only resist, we define resistance. See, I was taught to hate these ashy knees, but they tell stories of all those times that I tried to rid me of me, but didn't succeed. Thank you, Ashy Knees. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciated hearing from you. That helps me a lot. So, in Australia, ordinarily at this point, I would take a moment to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land. As you know, in Australia, sovereignty was never ceded. It is colonised land. And where I'm from, Adelaide in South Australia, the traditional name, the original name, is actually Ghana country, Ghana land. And I choose to acknowledge that even though I'm here because I'm from a country that was colonised, Eritrea in East Africa, and we're still suffering from the remnants of colonization. We're still trying to pull ourselves out of all of the damage that caused. And I know that India is quite similar in a sense. Also dealing with some issues that also stem from colonization in that period of time. So this poem that I'm going to share is dedicated to all people who live as minorities. I, as an Eritrean Muslim woman, as a black Muslim woman living in Australia, and for anybody here who lives, whether it's as second-class citizens because they're migrants or refugees, or because they're second-class citizens on their own land because of how systems affect us, this is dedicated to all of you, and it's a reminder to myself and to all of you. They tell me my profile is like my father's. The chiseled nose and the jaw, holding stories from the city in the clouds. To the home of ancient remnants and colonial covenants, we are generations raised on crimson dust between highlands and Red Sea, but it seems that now all we have are memories. I shed a tear every time an auntie asks, "Do you remember me?" And I say, "No." Or every time I remind my baby sister where she's from and she says, "So?" For every phone call that starts with, "Oh wait, Afiki, you lost touch." And I say, "La, atafakun, I did not lose touch." When really, Efie, I lost touch. And it always ends with Aitatatfi. Don't lose touch. And I say, Aitaf'inya, I will not lose touch. When really, Kitafitya, I'm going to lose touch. And not because I want to, but because I'm lost for words. See, they get stuck in my throat and refuse to leave my tongue. And instead they come out in tears when I think about all those years that I could have captured in my own hands and relived before each conversation. Then maybe we would actually have something to talk about. The moments are few, but so precious. Like sitting on the floor of a house in Addis Ababa with my grandmother. A home in a city, in a country belonging to neither of us, but the only one where we can meet. We sat weaving lacha like I weave between countries and cultures, presence and absence. She taught me to craft my own mashrafat as I would my life. With patience, precision, The wit of a woman, I learned from her to wear my crown. Crowns of cloth passed down from mother to mother to mother in varying colors. Cloth that once was just cloth now holds truth. Strings cut, love costs. Cloth that represents roads and rivers running west of red waters. Lives lost crossing borders because those amongst us fought us, made killers of our sons and daughters when they taught us that there is no longer justice here, just us and power hoarders. But I imagine speaking to my late grandfather. I can almost see him standing there saying to me, "Who told you to look at your feet? You come from a long line of generations that preserve dignity despite occupation. You pick your head up, you hold your head high because we are not short of heroes. Our heroes wore Congo on their feet. They brushed teeth with soft wood. They took shoes off when they entered the home. No, maybe they didn't look like your heroes from TV because maybe they were not knighted but unappreciated when they worked 4 to 12, 6 to 2. Maybe they don't know no 9 to 5, but we saw their double lives. So when they tell me that my profile is like my father's, I say to them that that is my greatest blessing. Thank you. I have time for one more poem. And this one is a constant reminder to myself also. Most of my poetry is. And that's, as you've heard, a lot of my poetry is making statements and speaking up about things that I might otherwise not be able to share with people. Poetry has helped me to process them. And I do consider myself an activist. And so this is a reminder to all people who are always fighting for something, because fighting can get tiring. And we have to keep on fighting. We have to make sure that we're heard, because changes don't come simply by waiting. Change doesn't just come with time. Change comes because people are working for it. And it's our choice to be one of the people who are working for it, or simply waiting for it to change. And if we're on that waiting side, we're often part of the problem. And that's something that I always remind myself. But this one is about the importance of also taking it easy at times. Because the fight can be long, and we can't wear ourselves out. I miss the simplicity of positivity. See, dancing once elated me until every stage my toes tattoo seemed to decree deeper, darker pages, this rage ringing relentlessly. I couldn't balance the beauty, and bereft I couldn't work out the steps, tripping on my own pirouettes, though no regrets. Now I let revelry replace my destructive mindsets. So can we just dance like leaves fallen on the road, sweeping swiftly down streets, round corners to new episodes? Can we speak through our movement like some kind of code? Reviving lost languages, we, light and latent, listen like learning is life's love. We could salsa to the whistling wind. Only soil beneath the soles of our steady steps, serene, but not sedated. Content, but not complacent. Forgiving ferociously, but cautiously. Won't you forgive me? For I am bound to step on your toes, to let emotions flow and treat you terribly when overwhelmed with woes. And we know how it goes. We might have to dance slow, somber, clinging closely to memories of cool caress from those we let go, praying we let them know that we let love show shades of hope and not just shadows. As the sky does beautiful things above the ocean, we could dance toward the sunlight, toes wet with warm waves moving effortlessly. And when we're heavy, we can cry crystal tears to sweet songs sung by bright birds. On those dismal days we'll dance until the pain fades, until the raindrops dripping drop on dry terrain and the barren becomes fertile again. Though towers may always tower over us and greatness may always be waiting over the next cusp, it may remain something that we just cannot harness. Can we dance regardless? With the backdrop of vivid visions of victory, can we fall victim to adventure? Doubting our doubts until they're too doubtful to doubt us, fostering long forgotten feelings of freedom manifest in our queendoms, where our anthems are peace, prayer, and poetry. So can we? Thank you very much.
You'll be listening to Manal Younus. And our fourth and final poet who will perform for you this evening is Simon Armitage, UK Poet Laureate. Please join me in giving Simon Armitage a very warm welcome to the stage.
To the fashion industry in crisis. And I apologize for my ungainly external experience, my sweet lord. Your all-seeing eyes saw me pritt stick a Lamborghini badge to an off-the-peg Ford. And I'm sincerely sorry for looking this way. I'm not usually the slovenly kind, but I'd set my heart on a dark night of the soul when somebody threw back the blind. I've been arm wrestling with Jack Daniels and the Holy Ghost on the overgrown lawn. Then me and Jim Beam were trading oblique strategies through until dawn. Now I'm window shopping for glimmers of self-esteem and sticking it all on a card. Now I'm dialing Deliveroo, ASOS and Amazon Prime on a dyslexic Ouija board. So I chose badly when I fell for the supermodel with the pop-o-matic heart. But frankly, I'm a shopaholic who's got getting suckered down to a fine art. What's the word for being simultaneously enthralled and appalled by your own likeness? What's the cure for being dazzled by page after blank page of snow blindness? Me and Jack Daniels doing naked online all-night poker to a soundtrack of bad luck. Jim Beam leading me down the overgrown primrose path with a sippy cup. Yours truly playing Cards Against Humanity into the small hours, solitaire version. Guess who presenting himself in the gold-rimmed vanity mirror in person? I'm my own target audience, the trophy cupboard's groaning with third prizes. I'm an influencer touting 500 quid Paisley wellies, which is priceless when I'm trying to compose a twisted love letter to the fashion industry in crisis, but I'm sidetracked by white noise and static and deafening radio silence. I blew my first million on a rip-off Dior Gucci Armani string vest, and that Instagram pout I've been paying for installments has gone west. I've got a pug in my clutch bag. I'm flaunting limited edition zebra skin docs, so if I put both feet on the seat opposite, is that like punk rock? This is a poem called Red Wings. Red wings are birds which nest and breed in Scandinavia and then just come down to Britain during extreme weather events to feed on the last of the berries. Red wings. The oak in his new green coat, such soul and heart, and the last to molt. But all you were after was timber and smoke. So it's true, the red wings are here again, dusk and dawn tucked under their wings. Oh, Stockholm with your iron trees, we must not say what the red wings mean. The ash, she was handing you the keys to the house. She was praying you'd pop the question at last, but you never asked. So it's true, the red wings are here again, dusk and dawn tucked under their wings. Oh, Oslo with your iron trees, we must not say what the red wings mean. The beach, in his fingerless gloves and mossy green sleeves. If he begs for love, will you make him crawl on his hands and knees? So it's true, the red wings are here again, dusk and dawn tucked under their wings. Oh, Riga with your iron trees, we must not say what the red wings mean. The lime, she's worn her hair the way you like. She's come to the rave in her favorite dress, and you couldn't care less. So it's true the redwings are here again, dusk and dawn tucked under their wings. O salt home frozen in iron seas, we must not say what the redwings mean. So it's true the redwings are here again, embers pocketed under their wings, poor chandeliers of evergreens, poor redwings caught in the iron breeze. We must not say what the redwings mean. Thank you very much. I'm a bit giddy. I nearly did a little curtsy then. This is a poem called You're Beautiful. You're beautiful because you're classically trained. I'm ugly because I associate piano wire with strangulation. You're beautiful because you stop to read the cards in newsagents' windows about lost cats and missing dogs. I'm ugly because of what I did to that jellyfish with a lolly stick and a big stone. You're beautiful because for you, politeness is instinctive, not a marketing campaign. I'm ugly because desperation is impossible to hide. Ugly like he is, beautiful like hers. Beautiful like Venus, ugly like his. Beautiful like she is, ugly like Mars. You're beautiful because you believe in coincidence and the power of thought. I'm ugly because I prove God to be a mathematical improbability. You're beautiful because you prefer homemade soup to the packet stuff. I'm ugly because once at a dinner party I defended the aristocracy and wasn't even drunk. You're beautiful because you can't work the remote control. I'm ugly because of satellite television and 24-hour rolling news. Ugly like he is, beautiful like hers. Beautiful like Venus, ugly like his. Beautiful like she is, ugly like Mars. You're beautiful because you cry at weddings as well as funerals. I'm ugly because I think of children as another species from a different world. You're beautiful because you look great in any colour, including red. I'm ugly because I think shopping is strictly for the acquisition of material goods. You're beautiful because when you were born, undiscovered planets lined up to peep over the rim of your cradle and lay gifts of gravity and light at your miniature feet. I'm ugly for saying love at first sight is another form of mistaken identity, and that the most human of all responses is to gloat. Ugly like he is, beautiful like hers, beautiful like Venus, ugly like his, beautiful like she is, ugly like Mars. You're beautiful because you've never seen the inside of a car wash. I'm ugly because I always ask for a receipt. You're beautiful for sending a box of shoes to the third world. I'm ugly because I remember the telephone numbers of ex-girlfriends and the year Schubert was born. You're beautiful because you sponsored a parrot in a zoo. I'm ugly because when I sigh, it's like the slow collapse of a circus tent. You're beautiful because you can point at a man in a uniform and laugh. I'm ugly because I was a police informer in a previous life. You're beautiful because you drink a litre of water and eat 5 pieces of fruit a day. I'm ugly for taking the line that a meal without meat is a beautiful woman with one eye. You're beautiful because you don't see love as a competition and you know how to lose. You're beautiful because of a single buttercup in the top buttonhole of your cardigan. You're beautiful because you couldn't live in a lighthouse. I'm ugly for making hand shadows in front of the giant lamp. So when they look up, the captains of vessels in distress see the ears of a rabbit, or the eye of a fox, or the legs of a galloping black horse. Ugly like he is, beautiful like hers, beautiful like Venus, ugly like his, beautiful like she is, ugly like Mars. Ugly like he is, beautiful like hers, beautiful like Venus, ugly like his, beautiful like she is, ugly like Mars.
Okay, so thank you all. You are absolutely wonderful poets. You are setting the world on fire. Let them all come up again and we'll thank them. That's Lemn Sissay, who seems to have let go. But we have Forrest Gander, Manal Younus. Oh, Lemn!
And Ruth Patel.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lemn Sissay, Forrest Gander, Manal Younus, Simon Armitage, and Ruth Patel. This session was brought to you by Red FM. Now, some of the poets will be signing for you. Lemn will sign, Lemn Sissay. Forrest Gander's books have sold out, but if you happen to have one with you, he'll be happy to sign. Manal Younus will sign, and Ruth Patel will sign books tomorrow rather than today. So please do go along to the JCB Prize for Literature bookshop. You'll find that next to the Charbagh venue on the left, and you'll find the poets here at the Nexa front lawn in the far right corner. That's at the Z kiosk. The lights are white and blue. You'll find them just in the corner over there. So please do go to the bookshop and follow the poets there if you'd like to express your appreciation for their work today. That brings us to the end of day 4 of the 2020 Z Jaipur Literature Festival. I will ask you, actually, I'll interrupt myself for a quick prize giveaway, the last of the day. If you're seated and there's a big red sticker on the back of your seat, you've won a prize. Ah, have you got a sticker? There's no sticker. Well, let's see. There might be a sticker. Is there a sticker on the back of your seat, a large red sticker? If so, you're the winner of a Zomato hot seat giveaway. We have a sticker? Do we have a sticker? Yes? Can you hold up the sticker so we can see? Congratulations. Our volunteer will give you a prize giveaway here down at the front stage. So for those of you who may not know, we're starting the mornings here at the Nexa front lawn with a mini well-being session at 8:45 in the mornings. It's just a 15-minute window. Tomorrow is on mindfulness, and we go immediately after that into a classical music concert from 9 till 9:40. So please do come and join us for Ek Prana tomorrow at 8:45 for a 15-minute mindfulness class. Then we'll have a classical sitar concert tomorrow from 9 a.m. before we go into the final day of the literature sessions for this year's festival. Please do come along and join us, even if it's cold in the mornings. It's absolutely delightful to start the day that way. Oh, the volunteer is here. Here. And just as you're making your way out, I'll ask you to be careful of your belongings. The festival can't take responsibility for those. Please make sure you take everything with you, including your rubbish. Please put the rubbish in the bins provided. And I'll quickly run through our sponsor list. Without them, none of this would be possible. There's an enormous number of them. You may grow tired of the sound of my voice, for which I apologize, but we really do want to extend our appreciation to all the sponsors. Z is the title partner, Nexa is our associate partner and the venue partner at the front lawn here. Bank of Baroda is the venue partner at Betak. Matwana Jadeja Foundation is the venue partner at Durbar Hall. Rajasthan Tourism is our tourism partner. The JCB Prize for Literature Festival bookstore is managed by Full Circle. Aga Khan Foundation is our series partner. Reckitt Benckiser is our official cause partner. Diageo is our celebration partner. AirAsia is our travel partner. Kingfisher is our good times partner. Red FM is the official radio partner. Lonchora is the podcast partner. Facebook is our community partner. Be Live is our webcast partner. UFO Movies is our cinemedia partner. Save the Children is running book launches, and Pratham Books is an outreach partner. Series partners are the North India office of the US Embassy in New Delhi and Mahindra World City, Jaipur. Session partners are the British Council, Netflix, Etsy, Public Health Engineering Department, United Nations India, Avid Learning, Murti Classical Library of India of Harvard University Press, the Australian High Commission and Australia Council for the Arts, Paras Build Tech, Sahitya Academy Centre for Policy Research. Media partners are Dainik Bahaskar, Rajasthan Patrika, Amar Ujala, Business Standard, Inox, Matrubhumi, Outlook Magazine, The New Indian Express, and The Tribune. Further sponsors are Jan Mikulski, Zomato, DLF, Penguin Random House, Jayashree Periwal International School, Citibank, Storytel, CK Birla Hospital, LIC, India's Sotheby's International Realty, State Bank of India, John L. Bissell Foundation, JW Marriott, Airtel, Karma Kettle, Grover Zampa, Coca-Cola, Gulmohar Lane, Hotel Diggy Palace, Taj Rambagh Palace, Clark's Amir, Royal Opera House Mumbai, the Lalit Full Circle, Yuva Ekta Foundation, Royal Treasure, EventBot, Edelman, Social Connect, McCain, Unibic, Wagbakri Tea, Mastkin, and Kanha Sweets. Thank you so much for your attention. I really hope you had a wonderful day here on day 4 of the 2020 Z Jaipur Literature Festival in association with Nexa. And we look forward to seeing you back here in the morning. Thank you and good night.